Great to be here. Obviously, London last week. We actually have a show in Italy tonight, in Milan on DAZN, and then tomorrow in Miami, and then back here on San Antonio. I'm not going to Italy tonight, but I am going backwards and forth.
Are you not jet lag?
No, I'm just buzzing. How can you not be excited? I mean, to end a year like this, with a schedule like this, amazing job from Matchroom and DAZN, and thank you to the fighters, because they're the ones that have stayed ready, and they're the ones that are ready to go. We just watched the weigh-in there. Gennady Golovkin scares me, even being on the other side of America, to be honest with you. He looks absolutely ready to go.
He looks shredded.
He does. I mean, we were saying, you know, as he gets to the latter stages of his career, 160, you know, I always felt that we're going to see him up at 168 pounds. Came in there at 159.2. You know, looked a little bit tight in the face, but as you'd expect. But wow, I mean, probably the strongest I've seen him look for many years.
He looks shredded. He looks like a sculpture. But the thing about the face, he just, you know, anytime you dehydrate it, whether you made the weight correctly or not, it always draws your face. I don't worry about Golovkin looking a little bit drawn. It's how muscular he looks, how big he looks. He looks shredded. He looks ready.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was. I was just going to say, because he's been doing a lot of strength work. At the press conference yesterday, he was saying about he's been on the beach a lot. I mean, he looks in great
shape. He looks like you.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Hey, underneath this, he definitely don't look like me. I wish I looked like Gennady Golovkin. But you could see the strength work that's gone into camp. Obviously, working with Jonathan Banks as well. That'll be interesting, because are we seeing, you know, a slight demise in Triple G as his career goes on, or are we seeing him starting to adapt to Jonathan Banks? You know, he has had 2 fights with him now since the Canelo Alvarez fight. The questions are going to be asked by Zerameta, who also looks great, by the way. Looks confident, looks steely, but hasn't yet boxed at that level. And we were just saying off camera, you know, ignorance is bliss, you said, for him.
That.
In the respect of maybe he doesn't fear Gennady Golovkin in a way that other fighters that have mixed at that level normally would.
And that's exactly what a fighter in his position needs to do, because he's unbeaten. He's undefeated. He doesn't know what it's like to lose. He hasn't tasted that yet. So I like the look on his face. I like the body language. And if you're going to beat a monster, that's the mentality you have to have.
Let's talk a bit about his last performance against Derevyanchenko. I mean, they often say a fighter is only as good as their last fight. We know that a lot of people had Triple G losing. Do you feel like he has so much more to prove this time around?
I think he's proved so much, hasn't he? I mean, I think firstly we have to look at, that was at a stage where Derevyanchenko was highly underrated. Yeah. You know, we saw him perform well against Charlo recently. We saw him lose a close fight with Daniel Jacobs for the world title. This is a world-class fighter with a very strong amateur pedigree as well. So I think that sometimes everyone just expects Triple G to go in there and bulldoze someone. I don't think it was his greatest performance, you know. He is getting old. I mean, let's not, you know, he can't fight the way he boxed forever. So, you know, this fight's going to tell us a lot, I think, because if he goes in there like a wrecking ball and demolishes Zerameta, I think we can say, okay, we give him the benefit of the doubt. Jonathan Banks' relationship's working. You look stronger than ever. You're still one of the main guys, the main guy at 160 pounds. If he struggles against Zerameta, I think those questions will start to re-emerge. But for me, I don't believe that Gennady Golovkin is on the slide. I just believe he's coming to the back end of his career, and he's always going to be extremely dangerous. But I think this is more the pressure to put on a great performance and to make a statement.
But I also think that people are curious as to how he's going to perform after being out of the ring for 14 months. I mean...
Well, I think that's something that's very interesting in all fights at the moment. I mean, I felt that AJ didn't get the credit he deserved last week. 1, because I thought it was a great performance. But 2, he hasn't boxed for over 12 months. Any fighter, you know, they all say the same thing. Inactivity is a killer for their career. And these high-level guys, I mean, look at Canelo and Callum Smith. Same thing. Both guys been out of the ring for over 12 months. It's very unusual to see a fighter at the moment going into a big fight that hasn't been out of the ring for a long, long time. So, you know, Sergio will know better than me, but is that lack of consistency in the ring due to the pandemic of Gennady Golovkin being out of the ring for 12 months, will that hurt him more than it will hurt Zerameta? Because he has got a year older in that time.
We were talking about this off camera as well, and it doesn't affect puncher styles like Gennady Golovkin, who's seek and destroy, who doesn't rely on rhythm and foot movement and using the ring and moving laterally. It won't affect that rhythm. We know what he's going to do is that's going to be seek and destroy. So when it comes to a puncher like that, I don't think it's going to be a big issue.
What do you do? I've got a question for you, because I always find this
please, Daddy.
We've got some time to fill, don't worry about it. But, you know, with Gennady Golovkin, I mean, you see early on in the fights, he does get outboxed in the opening rounds. I mean, we saw it with Derevyanchenko. We even saw it, you know, with Steve Rolls, where the first couple of rounds,
times.
And I remember when Kell Brook boxed him as well, you know, 2 or 3 rounds, you're thinking, whoa, whoa. But as those feet start to slow, you're going to see fighters extend that period maybe to the mid-rounds of the fight. I mean, what do you do if you're Zerameta? You're not a concussive puncher, right? You can't just move all night and let him continuously try and cut you off. What do you do?
I see why you're asking me this question, Eddie. That's very sly of you because I wasn't much of a puncher either. So how would I fend off against a puncher like Golovkin? You got to go to Golovkin's body. We've seen that Derevyanchenko actually hurt Golovkin, the monster to the body. We never seen Golovkin hurt before. So whether you're a puncher or not, a well-placed body shot in the liver and the solar plexus is going to do the job. So that's one. And two, you know that he's getting older. So make Golovkin use his legs and make him come after you. And you got to fight. You got to fight him off too. You can't just move and stick and box and aim for the body. You got to get respect if you're Zerameta. And Zerameta's showing that he's confident, he's willing. He says, "Oh, Poland is watching." When you have that much, pressure on your shoulders, that much people supporting you, I mean, sky's the limit. You can do great things.
I think that Derevyanchenko fight was great, wasn't it? One of the best fights I've seen, because what Derevyanchenko did was box him. And then I was thinking, sooner or later, Gennadi's going to cut him off. And then he would choose to stand in the pocket and trade with him, particularly to the body. So he would be winning off the back foot. Then he'd stay on the inside with faster hands and let 4 or 5 shots go and then start to move again. And he was breaking him down. I think actually that fight's heavily underrated. I mean, I know at the time we were all saying that was one of the Fight of the Year contenders, but I remember being in the corral there for that fight, and it was absolutely brutal.
Well, I thought it was a Fight of the Year, and I don't think it was a robbery either. I think it was a right decision, but it could have gone either way. They don't call that man the technician for a reason, but I think that's exactly how you beat a fighter like Golovkin. Zerameta, I've seen a couple of videos of him. He's not great at anything, but he does everything pretty good, and that unblemished, undefeated record, you always want to save that 0. So we're going to see what happens.
I actually have a question for the both of you on this. They mentioned Oscar De La Hoya's name alongside Triple G. He said in an interview a few weeks back that he was willing to fight Triple G. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, did you see Triple G's comments?
Yeah, but you know what? I was hearing that there might have been a translation issue, but I'm not quite sure.
I wouldn't be surprised because it was very unusual to hear Triple G say something like that. But, we know there's no love lost between those two. I mean, when you look at the world of boxing at the moment and you look at some of the things that's going on, i.e. Mike Tyson against Roy Jones and Jake Paul against whoever, I have to say, like, commercially, Triple G against Oscar De La Hoya is definitely a fight that I would tune in and watch. I don't think it's a good idea for Oscar De La Hoya. No. I mean, this guy is an absolute legend of the sport of boxing, right? And a legend. But he has spent the last, 10 years plus enjoying himself. I think that's a good way to say it. And you can't hold up to the hammer that could be unleashed. And let me tell you, if Gennady Golovkin got him in the ring, I mean, the smiles are great, aren't they, Gennady? I mean, one of the greatest smiles in boxing, but also one of the scariest men in boxing. I mean, he wouldn't just want to do damage to Oscar De La Hoya. He would like to prolong that damage.
The promoter in you wants to promote that. And I got the great name for you, the golden boy versus the good boy.
I like that.
I started to think last night, I wonder how much Oscar wants for that fight, but I just think, I don't like seeing these legends go back to work because what it means is you need the money. Right? And how can you leave the sport with all the massive fights you've had? I mean, Mike Tyson's the same. Let's not kid ourselves. He's doing it for the money. Right? All the money that he's earned or he should have earned in his career, it just shows you that people haven't been looked after properly, and someone has let them down. So Oscar De La Hoya, same thing. Like, this guy's returning. He don't want to fight. He really wants to go through training camp and put himself. He wants the money, right?
Right. It has to be. I mean, we're prize fighters, but that prize always chases us.
At what point is it worth your health, though?
No,
it's never worth your health.
But also health, but also legacy.
Right.
He will forever be a pound for pound great. If he goes in there and gets, just decimated by Triple G, one, it's extremely dangerous, and two, it does tarnish his legacy. That's what you'll be. I mean, Roy Jones. I feel like Roy Jones, for all the the legacy that he created in his career, people will look. I mean, he's been boxing non-stop for 10 or 15 years. He's been boxing out in Russia. He got knocked out like a year ago, really badly. I don't know.
Boxers aren't happy until they know they don't have no fight left. They're going to keep fighting until the end. Legends die hard, Eddie. Whether you look at Muhammad Ali or Sugar Ray Leonard or an Oscar De La Hoya, they always got to end it badly because that's just the way they are. They always think they have that one last one.
I know that, but that's when someone's got to look after you.
Oh, yeah.
Someone's got to advise you in the correct manner. But if you have the money and you've created the legacy, I know what fighters are like because I've dealt with them for many, many years. And it's a time to say no. It's just like sitting at the poker table with all your chips, you know, and you've been playing for days and days, and you're thinking, I can't believe this. It's time to go. You know, thank you very much. I'm going to the beach. Bye. That's the same thing in a boxing career when you have to look at it. But fighters, I believe, leave the sport struggling for a couple of reasons. One, they could be struggling financially, and two, they could be struggling emotionally and mentally because they haven't achieved what they hope to achieve. So what I see is when a fighter is financially secure, but also can sit back on his couch and look at the wall and see those world championship belts up there, that's when you can walk away happy and content. But how many fighters walk away content?
None of them. And I asked Sugar Ray Leonard this question. I asked him, what brought you back? What made you continue wanting to fight? He says it's the adrenaline, being under them lights. There's no other rush than doing that inside the ring. And I got to tell you, if it's not the money, it's the adrenaline. Nothing beats just your blood pumping, your blood boiling, someone coming after you. There's no replacing that. And that's why I think fighters have a hard time adjusting with that. I mean, I'm having a good time adjusting to it because I'm still calling fights. But if I wasn't in the ring, I'll sure miss it.
But was there a part of you that did struggle with it initially?
I'm still struggling.
Well, we know that the trilogy is a fight that
never rule out a fight for Sergio Mora. You know, anytime anyone mentions his name, he's go, what? I'm ready. What?
There you go.
He's already got the shorts
Show me the
on.
money. I'm a prize fighter.
He's got the shorts on underneath the trousers just in case.
Show me the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we know the trilogy is a fight that we want to see. Obviously, Canelo will have to get past Callum Smith on Saturday night, and that's a big task at hand, so we can't overlook that. But Canelo did say in an interview this week that there were talks pre-pandemic. Could you tell us a bit about what sort of talks were going on at that point? Because to my understanding, I didn't think that there were any talks going on at all. With Triple G and Canelo.
Yeah, I mean, that was a bit before my time, to be honest with you. I mean, we rocked up, 2 months ago, you know, a bit less than that, and got this over the line. I think what I've learned about Canelo Alvarez and Eddie Reynoso is they'll fight anyone.
Right.
They really have no fear. I mean, they go into this fight this Saturday. So it's quite scary. You know, I look at Callum Smith, our guy, 6'4", punches really hard, head to body, fantastic jab, can do everything. And it's not that they don't respect him, but they just, the confidence that they have within the team is like, good fighter, Callum, best at 168. We have no problems with this. Don't worry. You know, and that's quite scary in itself. I think with the Triple G fight, the problem is that they're going to want to, if Canelo Alvarez wins this fight, they're going to want to move very quickly on to the next one because this is what they're like, right? They're reactive people. So it's like, you know, it's the buzz of the challenge. What's next? What's next? Right. And I think when you look at, if they don't fight Triple G, I think they fight Billy Joe Saunders. He will then look at the 168-pound division. He'll say, okay, I've got the WBC, I've got the WBA, I've got the Ring Magazine belt. I'm 2 belts away from being undisputed. So I've got Billy Joe Saunders next, and I've got Caleb Plant. Okay, Caleb Plant's fighting in January. You know, we know that Matchroom have Billy Joe Saunders. We can do this now. But I think they're going to want to, if they're successful on Saturday, I think they're going to want to move at speed. And whether Golovkin can move at the same speed to get it done for May, that's what we've got to try and bring together. At the same time, I look at Callum Smith, our guy, and go, I want this guy to do the business. He can win this fight. He really can. But from a DAZN perspective, I know what you guys are thinking and the execs are thinking is we want Triple G against Canelo Alvarez, number 3. And it is one of the biggest fights in the world.
Do you think that Canelo, should he be successful on Saturday night, do you think that he vacates his middleweight title, his WBA middleweight title?
Yeah, I think that, you know, we keep having this conversation about belts. And, you know, I did a piece yesterday on the press conference, and I'm getting a little bit sick and tired of the politics and the problems in making fights because of belts, right? It's difficult because every fighter wants to win belts, right? They always dreamed of, you know, you would have grown up watching whoever it was, Oscar or, you know, or Duran or Leonard with a WBC and all these different, and you knew those belts. You know, when you turned pro, you knew the red one was the IBF, you knew that, you know, the green and gold was the WBC, the Ring Magazine was in Rocky, and, you know, it was like, so it's hard to convince a fighter to drop belts or to not worry about that for the bigger picture. But this comes down to like Fury Joshua, where, you know, you've got WBO saying, no, he's got to fight Usyk, and Usyk saying, well, how much are you going to give me to allow this fight? You know, and in the end, it's like, we all know that the winner of Fury Joshua is the best heavyweight on the planet, right? And we really want it to be undisputed because that was always the dream. But at what point do you just go, you know, we're writing you a check, all of you guys, for millions of dollars, and then Usyk's standing there going, how many millions am I getting? Where you could just go, do you know what? We'll just do it anyway, you know? So I think when you talk about Canelo, Canelo respects the belts. Canelo loves the belts. But at the same time, Canelo wants challenges, right? And we can't let belts get in the way and mandatories get in the way of making these great fights, because boxing has a problem right now where the paymasters, the broadcasters, they want numbers. Right? And what's delivering numbers at the moment? Great fights or exhibitions or YouTubers. And if we as boxing don't start to make these big fights, that's going to become the norm. And as someone that's been around boxing since 7, I would hate that. Even though I'd done Logan Paul against KSI and it was a great experience, to do that every week would break, I'd walk away from the sport, honestly, regardless of the money, because I love boxing. But if we don't deliver the product for the broadcaster, they will ask for things that do deliver the numbers. So Errol Spence against Terence Crawford, get it made. AJ against Fury, get it made. You know, Devin Haney against Lopez, get it made. Triple G against Canelo, whatever, get it made. This is the only way boxing is going to survive, because boxing is greater than all of those exhibitions and all of those YouTube events. But we don't get the consistency of the great fights. Now we've got the excuse coming through the pandemic to say, sorry, mate, you've got to fight this guy. And if you don't, maybe we part company. But our broadcaster saying, you know, Ryan Garcia against Luke Campbell, the winner has to fight Devin Haney. Right? That's it. That's the fight. And if you don't like it, mate, off you go. There's the door.
We do it for money. We do it for belts.
But
well
listen,
said.
The money's got to be great for those kind of fights, because we have to respect the fighters and make sure we get them what they deserve. But we can't let managers and advisors and trainers, their job, a manager's and advisor's job is to get their fighter the easiest fight for the most amount of money.
I love saying that.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's boxing.
Well, you know
I know
what? Thank you.
Am I talking too much? I've got a few more hours.
God bless you.
I've got a few more hours if you need me.
No,
We'll
you
do
know
something
what?
After, I don't
We
know.
always appreciate your time. So thank you very much, Eddie Hearn. We're going to go ahead and toss it on over to Canelo.
Pound for pound, the #1 fighter in the world, Canelo